The story I'm about to tell you happened to me personally in mid-October 1989. I was a young man at the time and had set off on another adventurous kayaking trip with my friend Dimka, who was about 7 years older than me, through the lakes of Karelia. These trips usually took us about a week. That fall, we were kayaking down the Suna River. We spent the first few nights in a tent, but on the 5th night, we stumbled upon a forest hut belonging to the local Karelians on one of the small wooded islands. Towards evening, the weather turned bad. Dark clouds appeared out of nowhere, and a fine, unpleasant drizzle started falling. Finding such a place to spend the night was a stroke of luck. We moored the kayak, unloaded it, and turned it over. We didn't have to search for the path for long. There was only one path leading to the hut, and it was overgrown with small shrubs from all other sides. Back then, theft wasn't as common as it is now. The hut was full of all sorts of things: mattresses, dishes, candles. There was even a kerosene lamp, not to mention the week's supply of food. A whole shelf of liter glass jars containing grains, pasta, and other long-lasting foods hidden from mice. We even found a small cellar in the hut, where there was a can of stewed meat, a couple of cans of pearl barley with pork, and even a bottle of vodka. There was also a small icon of Saint Nicholas the Wonderworker lying in the cellar for some reason. I know now who was depicted on the icon, but back then, orthodoxy was a blank spot on my world map. The small cabin was made of logs, and the gaps between them were filled with dry moss. There were shelves on the walls and a table in the center, making it comfortable to sit and sleep. The narrow side of the table was against the end wall of the cabin, and right above it was a window. Another window was above a small table next to the metal stove. The cabin was cozy and warm, with even the entrance door insulated with a layer of batting covered with cloth. There was no lock, just a stick to keep the door closed from the wind. Inside, the door was secured with a simple hook latch. After a tiring day of rowing, the fishing was good, and they even found a small metal smoker behind the cabin. They had caught fresh smoked perch for dinner and had dark rum in a metal flask. They also took out an icon and placed it on the table. Just as they were about to eat, there was a knock on the door. They thought it was one of the cabin owners and were relieved they didn't have to spend another night in a tent. However, it turned out to be a local Karelian man who asked for a place to stay for the night. They invited him to eat with them, and he sat down, taking out a piece of bread wrapped in newspaper from his coat pocket. "Did you retrieve the ass from under the floor?" The man spoke with a distinct Karelian accent, emphasizing every vowel in each word, which gave his speech an unusually solemn tone. "We did." "What's the matter?" My friend Dimka and I were surprised by the question. "You shouldn't have," He replied shortly and placed the icon face down. After we had finished with the fish and rum, the man went to the kitchen table, sat down on a bench, lit a pipe, and became lost in thought. By then, it had grown dark outside, and the drizzle had turned into a light snowfall, which was short-lived but foreshadowed the approaching winter. Only one candle remained burning on the table, and the evening in the cabin in the middle of the dense forest set the mood for mysticism. We spent a long time discussing books that we were both passionate about. And then the conversation turned to various topics related to the spirit world. I recounted how my friends and I, after reading Conan Doyle's spiritualistic novels, tried to dabble in table turning and suggested that we try it out. Dimke, who had previously been talkative, suddenly fell silent. I tried to continue the topic of spiritualism, but Dimke interrupted me abruptly and asked me to be quiet. Equals for about 5 minutes. We smoked in silence, and then he started to tell a story. About 10 years ago, I served in a communications platoon. We were already getting ready to be discharged when we were suddenly sent on maneuvers. Our platoon was located near Tambov, in an abandoned collective farm. It was a small platoon, mostly specialized in communication. In our company, there were 4 of us. Me, Talik the driver, Vika the radio operator, and Slavik. Slavik was our central figure, the cook. We were all experienced soldiers, as they used to say, old-timers. Accordingly, we could afford more than other soldiers. We had little work, enough time, and in the evenings, we went to play preference with the guys. We played in a cowshed, which was just a few steps away from our tents. Yes, of course, we did not sit in the cowshed. There was a corridor made between the cowshed stalls, the floor of which was sometimes broken, sometimes rotted, but it was possible to walk with a flashlight. This corridor led us to the door leading to the restroom. That's where we sat. In the evening, we gathered in the cowshed, lit a candle, and settled down on heavy oak stools. Slavik was late, so Talik suggested summoning spirits. He said we needed a sheet of paper, a saucer, a candle, and a pencil. Talik marked the sheet into sectors and wrote letters and numbers. We put 2 fingers of each hand on the saucer and summoned the spirit of Napoleon, among others. The saucer quickly pointed to letters, answering our questions with eerie accuracy. But Talik demanded more proof of their reality, and the saucer suddenly froze, and the candle went out. As Slavik walked in holding a thermos, everyone looked at him in silence. Vika was holding a heavy oak club, and the candle went out as it hit the ground. The saucer moved on its own, and we saw the words, "Is that enough?" before it broke. Slavik was missing, and we later found him impaled outside the village. Talik shot himself after seeing Slavik's body. The investigation concluded that Talik was responsible. The experience left me traumatized and disinterested in spiritualism. In the morning, the man was gone and there were no tracks in the snow. They found a bundle with petrified bread and an old newspaper, but the man was nowhere to be found. They went to the shore and saw no evidence of anyone sailing to or from the island. The weather was calm and peaceful, with a beautiful landscape, but they saw a ball of fog and a Karelian boat with 2 women in it. Dima and his friends laughed quietly as they paddled up to a boat to ask about the mysterious man who stayed with them overnight. The women in the boat identified him as Feka Lesonen, a local healer who died 50 years ago. They warned Dima and his friends that they should have taken the stale bread left by Feka, which held his power. The friends burned the bread and later regretted it. 2 years after the trip, Dima never sneezed, and he wondered if it was because of Feka's power or their tough trips. They never went back to that area again.